Welcome to my Piano Academy. We're going to learn about the chords that you can build on the different notes of the scale degrees. But in particular, we're going to focus on 3 chords, which we call the primary chords. Now, if you look at the C major scale, we have 7 notes. The top note is the same as the first note, which is a C to a C. It's an octave. Okay, so essentially we have 8 notes in the scale. Now in each one, what we call scale degrees, we can build a chord. The first chord will be a C chord. Okay, so it's a C major chord, a D minor chord, a E minor chord, a F major chord, a G major chord, a A minor chord, and what we call a B diminished chord, and then we end at the C major chord again at the top. We are going to focus on our 3 primary chords, and the 3 primary chords are built on the 1st degree of the scale, the 4th degree of the scale, and the 5th degree of the scale. So the chords are going to be C, F, 4th degree of the scale, and G on the 5th degree of the scale. But now what we're going to do, instead of playing them like that the whole time, we're going to play them so that the chords are in close proximity to one another and they are easier to actually move to and from. So if I was playing a song, for example, okay, see I'm jumping around quite a lot there. Now if I play them like this, there's not so much jumping around and you can see they move smoothly. Okay, so if I played another little improvisation, that's much better because the chords move smoothly from one to the other. The main thing is I want you to see that this is the root note of the chord. So because the root note is in the bottom of the chord, that's the name of the chord. So obviously this is going to be a C chord. Okay, what is this one called? That's called an A chord because the root note is in the bottom. But now in the way that we want to play our chords, the root note, the name of the chord, is not always going to be in the bottom. For example, now we can't call this a C chord because we've already played the C chord. So what is the name of this chord? With the notes of the F, it's F, A, C. I'm going to play it like this. F, A, C. Okay, now by doing it this way, I'm still playing an F chord, but instead of having to jump across the piano, I simply move my fingers over smoothly. So instead of going to this G chord, which is G, B, D, we're going to play the G chord like this. And I'm going to work from the C. So it's G, B, D, G, B, and D. So there's my G chord. But now we're going to change the G chord to what we call a dominant 7th chord. Now you'll notice in this chord, in this G chord, I'm using the D, okay? But in the dominant 7th, I'm going to replace the D with the F, G7 chord. If I had to play this G7 chord with the D, listen to what happened. It's a very strong sound. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this assuming that you've gone through my major scale series where I've dealt with all the white note scales. I'm going to play both hands together. Then after that, I'm going to play the 3 primary chords. I want you to notice the fingers that I'm using. Okay? Right hand, left hand, now those same finger patterns I'm going to use in all the scales that I'm going to play. If you can learn those patterns, you'll be able to play the 3 primary chords in any key because you've learnt the pattern. Now look what happens. I'm keeping the C in, but I'm moving the other two up. Now if I go from the C to the G7, I'm moving the thumb down to the B and I'm squashing those two together. If I move from the F down to the G7, that goes down and that goes down. Notice I'm using my fourth finger. If you look at the left hand, now what's the most natural finger to put over here when I play the F? Is it the third or is it the second? It's the second. Don't go and use the third. You don't need to. The most natural finger is the finger that's already there. So if I play the F chord, the second finger goes there, the thumb goes one up. If I go down to the G7, pinky goes one down, thumb comes one down, the F stays. If I go back to the C, I'm going to play pinky, 3, leave the F, and play the G. Okay, C major. C chord. D major. E major. F major. G major. A major. B major. If you enjoyed this video tutorial, click like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on anything.